Hello students, welcome to another lesson. Today we're going to look at examples 4 and 5 in solving multiple triangle questions. So in example 4, we are asked to find the angle formed at the peak of this roof, and that's this whole angle right here. But as you notice, it's broken up into two different triangles, so we will solve both triangles separately to find the total angle at the peak. So in this first triangle here, the right side triangle, notice that from the angle, we've got the adjacent side and the hypotenuse. So this is a cosine question. So cosine. And because it's unknown, I'll call that angle x. Cosine x equals, and the adjacent side is 14. The hypotenuse is 23. 23. So in order to find an angle, we use the inverse function of cosine. So angle x is equal to inverse cos of 14 over 23. And if you divide 14 over 23 and punch your second function button and your cosine, you'll get 52.5 degrees. Okay, the next one is the left side triangle, and I'll call this angle here y. And again, we've got the common side here is 14 and the hypotenuse. And so this is again cosine of y is equal to, and in this case, adjacent over hypotenuse is 18. And you're going to find the angle again by using your inverse cos function. And that equals 38.9 degrees. So if you add those two angles together, you'll get the total angle at the peak. So 52.5 plus 38.9, that equals 91.4. That's the total angle at the peak of this roof. Next question asked, what is the span of the roof? So the span of the roof is down here, this whole line here. Okay. So again, we're going to use the two triangles to help us solve. And seeing that we have solved for the angles, we can use those. So let's do the left side first. So angle y was 38.9. And we're looking for down here, so I'll call this A. So from 38.9, this angle up here, A is the opposite side, and we know the hypotenuse at 18, so that's the sine function. So sine 38.9 equals opposite side, A, over hypotenuse, 18. And because the variable is in the numerator, or the top of the fraction, This is a multiplication question. So 18 times the sine of 38.9 degrees. You multiply these two together, and you'll get A equals 11.3. Okay, and on this right side triangle up here, I will call this B. And we can use a number of strategies. We can use the sine function again, or we can use the Pythagorean theorem if we wanted. Since we know two of the other sides, 14 and 23, we could solve for B using the Pythagorean theorem. So let's try it that way. So 23 squared. Now, because we know the hypotenuse, this is a subtract question. I'll subtract the square of the other leg, and that equals B squared. So you square 23 and you get 529. You square 14 and you get 196. That equals B squared. Subtract the 2 and you get 333 equals B squared. And you take the square root and you get B equals 18.3. Okay, so the total span then is the sum of 11.3 and 18.3. 11.3 and 18.3 is 29.6 meters. 29.6 meters. That's the span of the roof. Okay, and one last question. Example 5. Now in this question, there's we're rancher who lives near 100 Mile House, BC, planning to build a new fence, and using 3 strands of barbed wire. Using this information in the diagram of his property, how much wire will he need for the fence? Now there's one piece of information missing that actually should be on this diagram, and that's this here. This should be 200 meters. Okay, that should have been given in the question. Okay, so we're going to try and find how much total fence he will need, how much total barbed wire. Okay, so let's start here. If we're going to find how much barbed wire we need, we're going to have to find some pieces of information that are missing. And so in this big triangle here, okay, this one here, notice that the angle at the bottom is 50 degrees. And so we can try and find this whole side. We'll call that X. Okay, so let's try and find that side. From the angle of 50, that's the opposite side, and we know the hypotenuse, so that's the sine function. So sine 50 equals opposite X over hypotenuse 500. Okay, this is a multiplication question again. So sine of 50 times 500, and you end up with X equal 383. So X equals 383. Okay, so 383 goes here. Okay, next, I can find the side here of this triangle, and I'll just call it Y. So that's the cosine of 50 because this is the adjacent side. So cos 50 equals y over 500. Again, multiplication question, and y equals 321. Okay, so right over here is 321. Okay, now in this triangle, okay, this angle is 60 degrees as given. And I'm going to find this side here. I'll call it F. So that's the opposite over the hypotenuse, which is sine function. So sine 60 degrees equals F over 200. Another multiplication question, and F equals 173. Okay, 173. Now, if this equals 73. Okay, if this equals 173 here, this side, this is a rectangle. And so this side here is 173. And then now I know the total of the length of B, which is 321 and 173. Now the last piece is I need to find this right here, this side here. I'm going to call it D. And that's the adjacent side, so that's cosine 60 equals adjacent over 200. Multiply cosine 60 with 200 and you get D equals 100. Okay, so this is 100 in here. Now if this total is 383 and this is 100, that means the distance from here to here must be 383 minus 100, or 283, which is the side A. Okay, so now we have enough information to find out how much fencing will be required. So I've got 321, which is here, plus the 173. So we've got 321 plus the 173 plus the 283 up at the top here, plus the 200 for this side, and lastly, the 500 down this side. Now, if I add all that up together, I get 1,477, but that is one strand of barbed wire. If you notice in the question, it said there's 3 strands of barbed wire. So how much barbed wire do we need? We're going to multiply this by 3. And that equals 4,431 meters of barbed wire required to complete this fence. Okay, students, we'll talk to you again soon. Bye.